Hello my friend, and welcome to today's video. In this second installment, we will dive deeper into the capabilities of the RC-30 loop station. If you haven't watched part 1 of this series, I highly recommend that you pause this video right here and click on the card shown on the top right of your screen, then come back and put it all together. This video will focus on how you can connect multiple instruments and run multiple tracks simultaneously on your RC-30 loop station. Make sure to stick around all the way to the end of the video to learn how you can get a chance to win free Melodic merchandise. Let's get started. Alrighty my good friend, this is where we left it off on part number 1. So if you haven't watched it, please make sure to go back so that way you can catch up to right here, which is adding one extra pedal to your loop station while it's running with one instrument. For this tutorial, we're going to do 2 instruments and we're going to add an extra pedal. So that way you see what the process is when you're adding more. Once from this point on, I don't really have to explain much about it because you're just going to keep replicating the process over and over, right? So let's do one pedal for now. So where you left it off was your guitar amp was plugged into the output, and then you had your guitar and your pedal plugged in into the instrument input of your RC and to the output of your distortion pedal or whatever pedal you have right here, and then you have the input straight into your guitar, right? So to add an extra pedal, remove the guitar cable, and what we're going to do is add up another one of these short connector lines, and I'm going to put the link in the description. It goes into the input, and then you bring in your next pedal, plug it in right there, and that's pretty much it, right? So now we have the guitar is going to have access to distortion, and it's going to have access to wah. If there was a reverb pedal or a phaser, anything, sweep, echo, whatever kind of pedal, you could keep adding them on as you go along. Just make sure that the very last pedal has the input into it on the right hand side that goes into the guitar, right? So right now we have access to multiple pedals, right? Now let's see if we can do exactly the same thing and add another instrument. To plug in the second instrument, you're going to need exactly the same setup, right? So if you needed 2 lines to make sure that you have access to your amplifier and to your instrument, then you're going to need basically the same thing. 1 line for your next amplifier, and then you're going to need a second line for your instrument. And it's pretty much doing exactly the same thing. The only difference here is that if you have an amplifier that can hold 2 inputs, then you can do this with 1 amp. Or maybe you're going to need, depending on your setup, 2 different amplifiers to be able to run multiple instruments. So what I'm going to do is that with those amps that I have right there, I'm going to show you how you can plug it into 1 amplifier that has the actual capabilities of doing it. And I'm also going to show you how you can plug it into 2 different amplifiers and achieve the same thing. All right. So the one that goes for the amp is going to go right next to the other guy. Let's go into the other amp. And this one is going to be for instrument number 1, which for me is going to be my guitar. And it has input number 1 for the guitar, and then I have my pedals, and it goes to my guitar. But on this second input, I'm going to be, for my preference, is going to be a drum pad. Now, for your preference, it can be pretty much any instrument, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to grab my second line, and I'm going to get it in there. And now this line right here is going to go to my second instrument. And what's cool about it is that you don't really have to, have a really long line. With the setup that I use, this little short line just reaches perfectly, right? So based on your setup, you may need different lengths of cable. So I'm going to put some links down in the description, and then you can kind of gauge on what you actually need. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is see how we can plug all this stuff up into our amps back there. Let's go. Okay, so this is my setup when it comes to the amplifiers. The amplifier that I have on the bottom is a line 6, and this one allows me to run both instruments. It has 2 inputs on it right here that allow me to plug in both instruments through the same source. So if I wanted to do that right there, this one would be running from right here straight into my amplifier to run my drums, and this one would be doing the same thing but running the guitar. And that's kind of cool that it has that feature. However, I kind of feel that it puts too much strain. I have to keep my volume so low in order to achieve good, good quality sound. So something that I like to do is taking off the second instrument, leaving the guitar on my bottom one, and going to the top one and running it like that. And the reason why I like to do that this way is because it diverts the sound. It allows me to move this amplifier to a different, maybe a different angle around the microphone that kind of allows me to kind of encapsulate more. But that's by preference, right? Now, notice that this would be your setup if the bottom amplifier didn't have that second input, right? Because the one on the bottom that allows me to have both is not being used that way. But let's say that your amplifier, take a look at your amplifier right now and see if it has two or just one input. If it only has one input, you are going to need a second amplifier to achieve the same. Or maybe you want to upgrade to one that actually has both, that can handle, that can really handle the job. This one, however, since it has more features for recording and all this other stuff, and it's not necessarily the best amp to be running too many, cables through it. So like I said, if your main amplifier only has one input that you can only do basically your guitar or your keyboard or your drum pad running through it, then you will need a second amplifier to do it. But if your current amp has both of them, just play with the knobs and the EQ and make sure that you're getting the less amount of feedback. Also, the volumes on your the actual instrument really counts. Alrighty, my friend, that's pretty much it for this. Let's hop to the next thing. Let's do a demo. Alrighty, my good friend, for this portion of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can build a song from scratch, one layer at a time, one track at a time, and I'm going to do it with two instruments. This is going to help you really see how it works. Now, if you really need to see what it looks like down in the pedals, go back to part number 1, and I gave you a close-up over there of what it looks like. This one is going to focus on the instruments a little bit more. Let's start with track number 1. For track number 1, I'm just going to run just a few strums over some chords. Alrighty, so that's my track number 1. Now from this point on, I have free range to pretty much, just do whatever I want, right? So I can play over this, I can record another track, or switch instruments. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of what would be the effect of a bass on my second track, so it sounds a little bit more like the song. If you know what the song is, put it down in the comments. Here we go. Track number 2. Alrighty, so there goes track number 1, track number 2, and I tapped the foot switch just in time to be able to add that first solo right there. I think that you know what the song is by now, right? So I'm going to put my guitar down. I'm going to move to instrument number 2. It's not recording. Make sure that my settings are right. And let's add some percussion to this. Here we go. Okay, now we're gonna hear some percussion going in the background, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna spice it up a little bit more and just add little things like, I don't know. Just something simple to give it a little bit more accent. Now I'm going to switch the sound entirely, and let's add some actual drums to this, right? Alright, so now we have drums, we have a couple of tracks going, and we have a little bit of percussion in the background, right? So now I have more options. I can go straight into the distortion, or I can just jam it out a little bit on the clean side, and then give it a solo, right? So let's just jam it. Right? So I can keep going and play the whole entire song, but at some point I kind of feel like I want to add, you know, my own feel to it with a little bit of wah, a little bit of distortion to it, right? So let's do that. Alrighty, my good friend, this was a lot of fun. I really hope that this helps you understand the pedal a little bit better. I love doing these tutorials. I do get into the gaming a lot too, so if you're into the gaming, check out those playlists as well. So there's going to be a part 3. We're going to get more into this pedal, but until next time, this is it, guys. Much love. Catch you later. But before I go, wait, what about the giveaway? The terms of this giveaway are actually very simple, you guys. All we have to do is get this video to 500 likes, and I'm going to pick one lucky winner from the comments. So make sure to put something in the comments. I don't care what you put down there. As long as we make it to 500 likes, I'm going to pick somebody from down there to get, I don't know, a piece of merchandise with a lot of love, because you guys give me a lot and I want to start giving a lot of stuff back, right? So you're going to see more giveaways down the road. Alrighty, if you guys are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.